Well, hey guys, Down and Out Dave here, and welcome to the first episode of We'll Talk Movies for Food. As you can tell, I'm a little down and out these days. I'm a little homeless, but hey, don't let that dissuade you from watching this. You know, homeless people, we can become internet famous too. Sorry I'm a little dirty, it's a little stinky in my alleyway. A little bit of milk in there, that'll be good for later. And a lot of whoever threw this trash away was getting some Wataburger, so they didn't drink all this. So I want to talk movies, and you're going to have to be a little patient with me because I don't have all the technical editing capabilities, so I have to do all of my stuff on paper that I find in the trash. So the first movie I want to talk about is Seven. Seven is one of my most favorite movies. When I had a house and a life and wasn't living in the gutter, I used to watch Seven a lot. So they spelled it, which was kind of cool, S-E, 7-E-N, which talks about the 7 deadly sins. So this movie stars Gwyneth Paltrow. She's trying to sell you candles that smell like her vagina. And then we have one of my most favorite actors, Morgan Freeman, who plays the burnout detective who's so jaded, who's seen everything but just is ready to retire and leave all this crap behind him. Then we have Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt, you know, the new idealistic detective that's just come to the city to clean it up. And then Kevin Spacey as the bad guy before he really became a bad guy in real world. Then we have another favorite actor of mine, R. Lee Emery, who plays the Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt's boss. You may recall R. Lee Emery from his most iconic role in Full Metal Jacket as the Marine Sergeant. He was a real Marine Sergeant in the real world, and we'll talk about Full Metal Jacket on another episode. But he has the best line in the whole movie where he's sitting at this desk and Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are telling him about it, and the phone rings and he picks up the phone and he's like, "This isn't even my desk," and then hangs up. So the movie starts out in this dilapidated city where it seems like it's always raining. Does it never stop raining there? Just constantly raining and raining and raining, and it's just everything is ran down, and it's almost like a dystopia city from the future. And so the first murder that they come across is this very large fat man who is in this old dilapidated house, and he's a shut in. And so Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are, searching and looking in this guy's house, and they find that his hands are tied in front of him. So it's a homicide. So Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman go to the, being homeless, you forget these people, what they're called, the guys, the dead bodies go to wherever. And they're talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, his stomach is descended and his throat is descending because the killer was forcing him to eat, just forcing him to eat. And eventually the guy passed out and he kicked him and his stomach ruptured, and that's why he died. And they find, when they were doing the little autopsy, they find like these weird strips of plastic. So Morgan Freeman, because he's such a smart guy, he goes back to the man's apartment and finds these little cut marks in the linoleum floor. And he takes the strips out, and boom, they match the linoleum floor. So he pulls back the refrigerator and he finds written in grease, gluttony, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. So they know now that they're after a guy that's possibly doing his murders based on the 7 deadly sins. So Morgan Freeman, who's really smart, he lives alone, he doesn't have a wife or anything, he gives a list of all these books so that Brad Pitt can read about them. But of course, Brad Pitt, he's the young, idealistic, detective, and he's like, he gets cliff notes. I'm not reading these books, whatever. So then the next murder happens, and it's this rich lawyer named Elliot Gould, and they find his body kneeled down, and there's some scales, and he had to cut himself for a pound of flesh. And of course, in the process, he bled out, and is written greed. So, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are just, how do we solve this case? And then there's, Morgan Freeman says, we got to find that one clue, that one thing that's left behind. And in Gould's office, the lawyer, there's a picture of his wife, and her eyes are circled in blood. And Morgan Freeman's like, well, maybe that means, this is the one thing. Maybe she's supposed to see something. So they go to the wife, and they take all the pictures, and she's going through the pictures, and she comes across this painting, which is just an abstract painting that, really doesn't have anything, but, unless you've seen the painting, you would be the only person that knew it. And when she looks at this picture, she's like, the painting's upside down. So Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman go back, and they take the painting, which turn it upside down, sideways, and still looks like the same to me. And they start dusting for fingerprints, and guess what they find? Behind the painting on the wall, somebody used their finger and wrote a message. So they check those fingerprints, and they find it's this man who was a pedophile who went missing. So they track him down to his last house, and they go in force with the SWAT team and all that. Hey, I don't get Wataburger that often, and if you find it in the trash, oh well. It's what I have to survive. So, not many people pay you to talk about movies. So anyway, they rush into this guy's apartment, and they find him, which they think is dead, and there's all these Christmas trees, like the kind that you get the car wash, all hanging up all over the room. And written above him is sloth. And he's been tied to this bed for about a year. And at first they think he's dead, and the cop leans over and goes, you got what you deserve. And then he starts, and he's alive. So they rush him to the hospital, and another cool line, the doctor comes out to talk to Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt, and they're asking can he tell us anything? Is there anything that he can tell us? And the doctor says he chewed off his tongue long ago. That man has suffered more than most, and he still has hell to look forward to. Awesome line. Boom. So Morgan Freeman, because he's been around the game for a while and he's got connections, he's like, a lot of people don't know this, but when you check out certain books, Mein Kampf or Anarchist Cookbook or Dante's Inferno, whatever, the FBI monitors it, and they put a check by your name, and they have a list. So Morgan Freeman contacts this FBI agent, and they bring him a list. And the person's name who matches the books that have been checked out of the library is this guy named John Doe, which John Doe is just the name they use for people that are, nameless. So they go to this apartment, and they're knocking on the door, and all of a sudden this guy's walking down the hallway, and they look at him, he looks at them, but he's too far away to actually see his face, and he just starts shooting at them. So Brad Pitt chases him, they run all the way through the building. It's really cool. They're running, and he's chasing John Doe, and they're going through people's apartments and jumping out windows and go outside. It's always raining. So finally, John Doe jumps into the trash from about the third or fourth story and takes off running. So Brad Pitt, he jumps, and then he runs into this alleyway, and John Doe has climbed up on top of this garbage truck, and as Brad Pitt goes by, he smacks him in the face, jumps down, puts a gun to his head, and Brad Pitt thinks he's going to kill him. Morgan Freeman starts yelling. He's running to help him, and John Doe takes off. So, because then they go back to the apartment, and Brad Pitt just kicks the door in. And Morgan Freeman gets really mad. He says, hey, we're going to ruin, we need a search warrant. All this is going to be unadmissible. So Brad Pitt gets an idea. They pay this homeless person like me, hey, give me some dollars. And the person says that they seen him going out during the murders. So then they go in, and it's always cool how they do these movies where, like, the bad guy is always, like, he's not just crazy, but he's, like, over the top crazy. So it's like his house is really dark and dreary, and in one room he's got photos hanging up of, like, killers, and then he's got this little receipt for this weird sexual device, and they find money and all of these notebooks that he's written in, like thousands of pages of just his mind, and it's so sick and disturbing. And then finally John Doe calls, and Brad Pitt picks up the phone and is talking to him, and he's like, this is not the end of the game, but I can't wait till you see the end of the game. So then, because of that receipt for the sex toy they find, they go to the sex shop, and lo and behold, another murder happens. And they go to this, it's like a sex club, but it's down in the dungeon. It's like down in like a underground part of the city. It's really strange and weird. And they walk in, and this prostitute is dead. And there's this man, and he has this thing, like a penis strapped to him. And it's got a big knife on the end, and it says lust. And John Doe put a gun in this guy's mouth, and that's one of the things that's really cool. This actor is like, oh God, oh God, oh God, he had a gun in my mouth, he had a gun in my mouth. And he strapped this phallic thing to him and made him screw the prostitute, and with the knife on it, of course, it was like stabbing her to death. So there we go, lust. So then there's another murder, which is Pride, which is this model who John Doe cut off her nose to spite her face and glued sleeping pills to one hand and a phone to the other, and she could have called and saved herself, but she'd been disfigured, or take the sleeping pills and die, and she took the sleeping pills and died. So 5 sins are down. Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are still no closer to finding out who this killer is. And they're walking into the police station, and all of a sudden, John Doe walks in, and he's got blood all over his shirt, and he holds up his fingers, and he's like, detective, detective, detective! And everybody turns around, and he goes, you're looking for me, you're looking for me. So they arrest him, and now they have him in jail. But when they test his blood, they find his blood, because he's been cutting his fingers, the ends of his fingers, so he wouldn't leave fingerprints. And some other blood that it's undetermined. And so what John Doe wants to do is he'll show them where the last victims are, but only Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman will he show. So Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are like, okay, let's finish this game. So they get in their car, and a helicopter with the SWAT team's following them, and they take off. And they're in this vehicle, and the whole time John Doe, Kevin Spacey, is just playing games with them. He's just playing games with them. He's sitting in the back seat, and he's just talking stuff about 7 Deadly Sins, and he's really getting on Brad Pitt's nerves. And he's just, I can't wait till you see this. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. So they keep driving and driving and driving, and they get out to like this just desert area with old broke down trailers and tons of big electric lines. So John Doe says, he asks the time is, and he's like, why do you need the time? He's like, I just want to know. And so Morgan Freeman tells him the time, and he's like, it's close. So they stop, and they get out, and they're all walking to this spot, and then Morgan Freeman turns around, and he sees this delivery van just hauling butt towards them. So then Morgan Freeman's like, you stay here, and he runs towards where the van is coming, and he fires his gun up into the air, and the van stops, and the guy jumps out, and he's like, man, don't shoot me, man. He's like, this guy paid me $50 to bring this box out here. He said it had to be right here on time. And Morgan Freeman's like, well, who's the box for? He's like, this guy, David Mills, Detective David Mills. So Morgan Freeman takes the box, and he sends the van driver, the delivery guy, on his way. And he's like, I just don't know. I don't know. And he sets the box down on the ground, and he's looking at the box. So he says, I'm going to open it. So he pulls out his switchblade and clicks it open, and he cuts open. And he opens up the box, and then he jumps like, and we never are shown what's in the box, a little bit of blood on it, but it's pretty shocking. So Morgan Freeman calls to the SWAT team up in the helicopter, and I love this part. The music's really starting to surge, and it's like, dong, dong, dong. And Morgan Freeman tells the SWAT team, you guys, California, y'all stay away from here. John Doe has the upper hand. So then you have Brad Pitt and John Doe. John Doe's down on his knees, and Brad Pitt's like, shut up, you piece of shit. And John Doe's like, I never told you how much I envy you and your pretty wife, Tracy. He's like, what the fuck did you say? I envy your simple life. I went to your house today, and I tried to play the good husband. It didn't work out. And then Morgan Freeman runs up, and he's like, put down your gun, put down your gun. And Brad Pitt's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, I tried to play the father because I envy your life, and it didn't work out, so I took a keepsake, her pretty head. And Brad Pitt was like, what's in the box? What's in the box, man? What's in the box? And Morgan Freeman's like, man, you know, it's just, we made her a suspect, it's this. And he's like, he told you. And he's like, you lied. So it implies that Tracy's head is in that goddamn box. So Brad Pitt's like, no, no, no. And then John Doe is like, become wrath. So he goes, because envy is my sin. So his sin is envy because he envies Brad Pitt, his simple life. So Brad Pitt, he wants to turn him into wrath, the final of the 7 deadly sins. And Morgan Freeman says, if you kill him, he will win. And Brad Pitt is just sitting there, and he's like, no. He's so sad. And then boom, a face of his wife flashes. John Doe closes his eyes. And what's in the box? Brad Pitt kills John Doe. And that's the end. And the movie ends with Brad Pitt in the back of a police car. John Doe's dead. And Morgan Freeman is getting ready to just disappear. And Arlie Emery goes, so where are you going to be? And Morgan Freeman's like, I'll be around. And that's the end of the movie. So I love 7. It's directed by David Fincher. You may know him from Twin Peaks. And it's just an amazing movie. It's probably one of the most perfect movies story-wise. It just turns out the ending is perfect. The killer is perfect. Yeah, if you go back and look at it and go through it with a fine-tooth comb, everything happens just perfectly. You wonder, how did John Doe know that Brad Pitt was coming? Why did he choose him? Never really goes into those details. But you know, you got to suspend some disbelief for movies. So it's a really great movie. The ending is amazing. The acting is amazing. Brad Pitt is awesome. Kevin Spacey is awesome. Morgan Freeman is awesome. I love the gritty and griminess of the city. As somebody who lives in the grit and grime, it really reminds me of home. And it's just an amazing movie. So this is Down and Out Dave. I will talk movies for food. I hope you like this episode. Please tune in and we'll do another movie sooner than later. Thanks. Bye.